You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. How we doing? How we doing? You know, I'm feeling pretty good. It's a beautiful day. Christie Sides is on the hot seat. My. Man, there's going to be something going down. We got the second half of the season for the Indiana Fever. And the main goal that I'm talking about when I say Christie Sides is on the hot seat, you got to understand that, when you get people believing in something and when they really do believe in it, you got to rock and roll with it. And that's just how it goes. But we got something here that I'm going to share. There's a $100,000 bet. That's it, folks. $100,000 bet. Okay, you got David Petroy from Barstool just made a $100,000 bet that the Indiana Fever can win the WNBA Championship. So you know what? When you look at it in Christie Sides and what she believes in, how she's going to do it, you know, she's running out of time of what we believe. And here's what I mean by that is Christie Sides is saying, okay, we need practice, we need practice, we need practice. Okay, and you've had practice. And so you're building this thing back to where it needs to go. And you just got to decide how I'm going to get there. And with the Indiana Fever, and you got somebody excited enough to make a $100,000 bet, folks, that's a hot seat waiting on you to get it together. And, it's puzzling to me, Christie Sides, what she does, how she does it. And when I talk about the hot seat, I'm talking about executing down. You're going to find out what you got. Okay, when I say find out what you got, you're going to find out what you got. And when you deal into Christie Sides, there's only one way to do it. And you can't sugarcoat it or you can't do it any other way. And when you get to Christie Sides and what she believes in and how she's going to execute it out, man, the number one thing I have with Christie Sides that Christie Sides needs to do is she's got to get in championship mode. And take a listen, folks, because when you're in championship mode, it makes life a little bit easier for you
as it relates to
as to what you can and cannot do.
Sure we're doing everything we can to do better with making those wide open looks that we're getting, because we're getting some great looks from three. We've got, around the basket, we've not finished some that we've got to make sure that we finish. Our free throw shooting had to improve. Those are the things we worked on that side of the ball. Talking defense, that's where my mind, that's where I feel like, I think we're in 11 right now. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like for us to make this push here at the end, we've got to get to 9, 8, 9.
See, that's what I'm talking about, folks, with Christie Sides, man. Oh, man, it gets interesting for me because Christie Sides still doesn't believe the Indiana Fever can win the championship. Christie Sides doesn't believe the Indiana Fever can win the WNBA Championship. You got David Petroy. This is the deal, folks. Here's how it shakes out, and here's how it goes down. When you get somebody that's willing to say, I'm ready to put up $100,000, okay, $100,000 on the Indiana Fever winning the championship. What does that do? That changes the whole perspective. Christie Sides on the hot seat. Can you coach them up? I need to know, can you coach them up? And when I say coach them up, man, you got to change the mindset. And when you get Christie Sides and the mindset and what she believes, man, she's just trying to barely get there. Yeah, we're a 5-win team. Yeah, we went here to the next. And, we're 11th in defense, but if we can get to 9. No, Christie Sides, about getting the number 1. The player's going to react to what you do, okay? And when you talk to Christie Sides, and you look at what the Fever got to do and how they got to bring it together and what's going down. Well, here's the deal. Fever come out, they're going to come out, and they're going to play basketball. And when you got to play basketball, it's cut and dry. Friday, August 16th, the Fever got the Mercury. Okay, there it is. Team USA, they're coming into town. Okay, then you go to the 18th, you've got the Fever, got the Storm. And then you go to 24th, you got the Lynx, and you come back with the Dream. Here's where Christie Sides needs to be thinking that I can win these games. I can win these games, and that's the deal. There's nothing else to do but win the games. There's no more else to talk about. There's nothing else to sit back and try to ask yourself, am I capable? Am I not capable? Guys, we got to quit this. We got to get to championship mode, and when you get to championship mode, you believe you can win a WNBA championship. You're not looking for the Indiana Fever to just go ahead and waltz through You're not looking for the Indiana Fever to go ahead and just say, well, we won 5 wins, then we won 13. Well, if we get to 15, that's a great year. No, it's not. Okay, because you don't get a bite at the apple each and every time. It changes. And when you look at this, folks, this is just as clear as it could be. You look at the Fever stats. I mean, we got to ask ourselves here, what are we really believing in? Because you go across the board, you got Caitlin Clark. There's no doubt about it. Caitlin's doing her job. And when you go here, 17 points, you got Boston getting 8.7. You got Clark getting assists, steals, and you got Leah Boston the block. Here's a true story, folks. When you look at all this and you say, okay, here we go. We got Caitlin coming in there. We got 17 points. You got Mitchell getting there, Boston, Smith, Finier, Samuelson, Wallace. Okay, that's the lineup. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you got Berger coming in at that Lexi Hole. You may only be able to go 8 deep when you look at this. Okay, you may be able to go 8 deep on your roster. And when you get to that stage, here's the big number that needs to change. Kelsey Mitchell needs to get off the 1.8 assists. Okay, 1.8 assists ain't going to get it done. Okay, because you can't be in there playing that many minutes and you're not bringing the assist up. And you got Boston's got more assists than Mitchell. Okay, that's a bad stat, and that's not one good. Okay, here on the steals, you got Mitchell at a half. Clark's getting averaging 1.5 steals a game. Blocks averaging 0.8, almost a block a game. Now, you got 5.6 in the turnover. Okay, so here's the deal. You're running here in assists 8.2. You want to at least bring that turnover total down. That's going to get you where you got a 2-to-1 ratio. If you get it down to a 2-to-1 ratio, that's acceptable, and that can win some games. But here's the deal. You got to play the basketball game to win the basketball game, okay? And when you look at what the Indiana Fever do, are they really trying to think in their head, logistically, going over the logistics? You got Barstool making a $100,000 bet. I guarantee you this, Christie Sides is going to run out on the hot seat on this one. And because I could tell you, I mean, you look at it, it's no change. And you got Caitlin Clark, you know what? And when I looked at this with Caitlin Clark, I said, man, oh, man, it reminded me of somebody. You know, Jordan used to stick the tongue out. Christie Sides, you know, Jordan used to stick the tongue out, Christie Sides. That means you got a champion. You got a champion, man. You got somebody that's seeing it and dealing it and believing it, and the coach has to believe too. You cannot sit there and coach the Indiana Fever and not believe you're going to get a win. I mean, you got to go in there and smack the Mercury in the mouth. You got to smack the Storm in the mouth. You got to smack the Fever in the mouth. You got to smack the Dream. You got to come out the gate 4-0 looking at this and standing tough. Why? Because that's your job. That's your job to do that, and Christie Sides knows that. So what do you got, folks? You got to build this thing and start believing in your team that they can win the championship, because they can. Here's the deal with the Indiana Fever. Okay, it's not about who, what, this, or that. You know what it's about? It's about the Indiana Fever believing we are a WN champion this year. You have the 3 post players. Let's not kid each other. Okay, I mean, I'll go with the argument. I'll understand and accept the argument. The argument is you know what, Christie, the Indiana Fever could win without Caitlin Clark. Okay, that's a bad argument. Let's skip that. But Chris, now the argument is she's got great players on the team. These are the same players they had before she got there, but now this year all of a sudden they became great. However, the deal is, Christie Sides, you talked about practice. You've had enough practice. You had enough off. You talked about team needs to get together and know each other. You've had enough time, a month off. You've done that. You talked about executing and doing what we want to do and executing on the defense so we can get in transition offense. You had enough time that we should be able to see that. Here's what the point I'm making, Christie Sides. When you make accusations that this is what you got to do, you got to get it done as a coach. Now, you're catching heat because, you know, you're kind of floating around like there's nothing in the air, or maybe I got this job for the next, 8 years? I don't know, but I know this about pro basketball. The rubber's going to meet the road, okay? And you can't go into the press conference talking about we got to get better, because you've had all the time to get better. And, folks, this is not high school basketball. This is not college basketball. and this is pro basketball. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. We're powered up by fanatics, and we are living a dream and telling everybody the truth as to what it pertains to and how it's going to come together. This stuff about these women coming in, these are women, grown women, coming in playing basketball. This stuff about we need time and preparation, I don't buy it, okay, because at the end of the day, you're a pro. You got to dig down deep. Can Christie Sides, this is where I'm going to take you, folks, does she have the ability to dig down deep and make these players be pros? Does she have the ability to dig down deep and bench a player when a player is not playing well? Does she have the ability to quit making excuses for the Indiana Fever and hold them accountable? This is pro basketball. This is the WNBA. When you're in the WNBA and they sign you to a contract, you're a pro. Your job is to go out there and do what you're supposed to do and not bring any distractions inside the building. When you're inside the Indiana Fever building, it's time to go to work. It's no different than Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Do your job. That's the question. That's the hot seat for Christie Sides. Christie Sides, do you have the ability to look a player in the eye and say, do your job? If you don't do your job, I'm going to cut you. Okay? That's coaching at the WNBA level. It's not a sugarcoat. It's not patty cake, because you got what you need to win. And when you have what you need to win, folks, I'm going to tell you, let's keep it 100. You got Tim A, going to be healthy. You got Boston, okay, and you got Nia Smith, okay? You got to look them in the eye and say, can you dig down deep and be a pro? And when it comes to this person, man, I'll tell you what, she ain't got no problem digging down, being a pro. This is that time. It's the Fever time. The Fever have got to pull this one out. And I'm talking about Christie Sides. You got to understand. You got Barstool sitting over there making a $100,000 bet on the Indiana Fever to win the championship. What has to happen to do that is Christie Sides has got to be able to accept her role and get it done. There's no tomorrow on this one. There's no let's think about next year. You got Lin Dunn. Now here's the deal. This is where it always comes together, right? You got Lin Dunn sitting there. We got a 3-year plan. Here's the deal. Everybody's got a 3-year plan, right? Everybody's got it. You got the Golden State Buccaneers. You hear the owner come in. I guarantee we will win the WNBA Championship in 3 years. Lin Dunn, you got to guarantee that the Indiana Fever can win. And that's the point, folks. That one that's the rubber on the road. That's the hot seat. Okay, the seat's going to get hotter because if you do not win, it's not the player's fault. You run out of room. I mean, there's no more room for Christie Sides. There is no more room for Christie Sides. Their deal when you got a player like Caitlinclark, man, I'm telling you. You know what? I get a lot of flack. I get a lot of people tell me a lot of things, but here's the deal. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to break this one down because this is pro basketball and all my experience, grassroots and everything. Let me tell you what, okay? I can take a player like Caitlinclark. I can win games with Caitlinclark. I win a lot of games with Caitlinclark as a coach. Okay, now I got to get all the right players in the right mindset, to go ahead and win the championship. Caitlinclark may have lost the battle. She lost in college, okay? She lost in college. She ain't forgot that. But her mentality is so much different on winning that she's playing to win the game. And all the other Indiana Fever players have got to play to win the game. I don't care if you're Boston. I don't care if you're Timmy. I don't care if you're Nia Smith. I don't care if you're Kelsey Mitchell. I don't care if you're Hole, okay? I do not care about any more excuses from the Indiana Fever. This is when Christie Sides, I tell you what, you come to work in the building, you go to work, you do your job. Okay, that's the bottom line. Now, if you can't come in there and go to work, do your job, okay, when you hit the Indiana Fever building, you got facilities, you got workout. And you know what, I'll be honest with you with Lin Dunn and Lin Dunn's comment, you know, that we didn't have anything here to offer anybody. I can tell you what, as a pro, folks, understand this. There's not a player in the world who's going to come and play for you because you got more courts, okay? I didn't understand. I hear a lot of crazy things come out, and I hear they try to hide and do a lot of things. But, you know, Lin Dunn, the main thing about Lin Dunn needs to you got a trade deadline coming up. You got to change the roster, okay? There's got to be a move. made by the Indiana Fever. There needs to be a move made by the Indiana Fever. If you don't pull the trigger, okay, the Indiana Fever don't pull the trigger, then you got to go back and say, okay, we got enough to win, and we got enough to win now, and we don't have time for no more excuses. So when you play the Mercury, Friday, August 16th, you got the Mercury, okay? We know what the Phoenix Mercury do. We know Diana Taurasi. We got that. That's old news. That's old news in the WNBA and the Indiana Fever. You got to get this next 15 games in a championship mindset. Christie Sides has got to coach them up. You got the Storm, the Fever. Okay, you know what? They're going to come in next. We know what Seattle brings, and we know how intensity their defense is. And now you got to be ready for it. You got the Lynx. Okay, Cheryl Reeves. That's old news. Okay, there ain't nothing going on there, and you got the dream. You can't fall down to a team that's below you. So what Christie Sides, what am I saying, Money Mike is trying to say is that the Indiana Fever got to step to it. Okay, Christie Sides' hot seat needs to coach and coach him like pros. Because here's what happens when you get buddy-buddy. That means you can't pull the trigger. Okay, sometimes you need to get in the player, dig down deep, tell them they need to be a pro. I don't want to hear it. And when they do something that's radical off the court or whatever, bench them. Move on. The other player that you're supposed to have on that roster must be ready to step up and fill it up. Now, here's where it gets a little scary, right? Because when you get into this roster, and let's go down there, okay? So here you got players that you got to get going, and you got to get going quickly, right? So you know, in all honesty, I mean, Lexi Hull needs to really step it up. I mean, Lexi Hull's getting 3.3 points a game. I mean, let's be honest. Okay, look at the stats. Okay, you're not there. You're not in the rebounds. You're not in the steals. I mean, you're not doing nothing that's going to help this team. You know, you say Grace Berger could play basketball. Well, Grace Berger's averaging 3.6 points, okay? So, again, you got another player here that cannot do anything to help the team. Now you talk about Wheeler, 4.2. Okay, you start looking at these numbers, folks, and it gets kind of crazy. Okay, because when you look at Wallace, you know, I mean, there's just nothing coming out. But you got the contract. Okay, so then you go to Katie Samuels. Katie Lewis get 5 points. Okay, Katie Lewis Samuels is running the 4 spot, can't get on the offensive glass, averaging 0.4. 2 rebounds a game. Okay, drops 2 rebounds. 1.5 assists. So those numbers, assist to turnover, you want to talk about something that's going down. When you get players that are assist to turnover ratio, and this is what I mean, you got Clark at a 1.5, that needs to improve. But when you got all these guys assist to turnover ratios behind, that's not good. Okay, then you look at the defensive end. Can anybody get a steal on the Fever? Can they get the tenacity? Because we only got one player above 1 steal a game. Okay, that should be more. Now, blocking shots, Boston and Smith. Finier, you got to be rim protectors. There's no doubt about it. Turnovers, Clark's at 5.6 a game. You know what? I'd love to see Clark go ahead and get 20 points and 7 turnovers. I mean, I'd enjoy that. You know, and all this talk about Caitlin-Clark and this stuff that people bug me on, and they try to make it where it all makes sense, but it doesn't really make sense. Because when you go back to it, again, I'll tell you, Wheeler's down here, 15.5, you're not getting enough in the game, okay? You're just not enough. Okay, Wallace, I mean, you got 4 points. Okay, you got to pick it up. Samuelson, we talked about that. You get to Mitchell. Mitchell's just got to double what she does. I mean, let's be honest. Mitchell gets 69 points. Okay, that's good. Let's double in the offensive rebounds, her and Caitlin-Clark. Okay, defensive rebounds, 1.5. You got to double up that. Okay, and you got to really make sure you're getting assists. This one kills me, 1.8. I don't understand. That's a combo guard. Can't get more than 1 assist a game. And this is where I talk about Gabby Williams. I mean, there's no comparison. Gabby Williams and Mitchell, there's no comparison. But you get to Boston. Boston's digging down deep. 8 rebounds, getting the assists, getting the steal, getting the block. Okay, you got to push these horses. And what happens with that, folks, I always tell you that I never look really at the player. I look at the coach. Coach is a trainer, and that's the one that's got to get them going. And for Christie Sides, you know what? I mean, it's time. It's time for Christie Sides to put up, shut up, and get off the excuses. Because there's no more time after a month. You give any coach in America a month. Now you got to get the players to do their job. If they do their job, you win. They execute, you win. If they come out there and that plus money and they are sucking air, you bench them. Okay, because at the end of the day, these are pros. This is not college. This is not where you go, okay, let's get together, kumbaya. He's a pro. You're paying them to play. You are paying players to play. The Indiana Fever are paying. You tell them what you want out of the production. Either they do it or they don't, or they take a seat. That's how you win championships. That's how you win WNBA championships. And there ain't no sugarcoating. There ain't no let's be friends, buddy, or anything like that. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Christie Sides, Hot Seat is going to get hotter. Okay, all things are possible to those who believe. You got a $100,000 bet. David Portnoy putting it in, Barstool. $100,000 bet says the WNBA Championship is going to be won by the Indiana Fever. And you know Money Mike's right behind that because I'm telling you, Caitlin can go ahead and win the WNBA Championship. She can win the MVP of the WNBA, okay? And that is what Magic Johnson did, and that is what Derrick Rose did, and that is what Caitlin Clark could do. There's no secret, there's no remedy, and there's no buddy. You take the floor, you're a pro, okay? You've been looking at this and playing this game all your life. There's nobody, like Chuck Noll always said, if I got to motivate you, I'll fire you. I'll cut you. Okay, legendary coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you sign a contract, you sign to play. And if you can't get that player with a championship mindset, you got to trade him. You got to trade him. You can't stand pat and win a championship. That's just how it goes. And you know what? It's got to happen. And I always say this, the WNBA and that France situation, just because players don't make training camps, skip that. We in America want to see the best players in the world. Okay, and when I look at the Olympics, I didn't watch the games. I looked at highlights. I saw Japan got some players that could play. You got Belgium got some players that could play. Okay, we know France has got some players that we could play. You got Nigeria got players. You got all these women who could play basketball. Okay, so when you announce we got the 144 best players in the world, you do not. But I would just dream of a dream when it's all over and their season ends as the WNBA expands their season. You let all those players come in. You let them come into the WNBA, then you got the WNBA is going to be a rocket ship scoring higher and higher. Because now we got the best players in the world competing, and then when they go back home, we'll play the Olympics like the NBA, because the NBA knows all these guys are in the league. So you can't take these guys lightly because pretty soon they're going to have so many guys in the league. United States may not be the most dominant in the game anymore. The women have been the most dominant, but you got to let these other people come in the league and show what they can do. And by that time, they're going to go back home, and you play them again in 4 years. That LA Olympics is going to be tougher than people think, okay? And in 4 years of all the players that are out there, you can't even imagine or even pick a roster what Team U.S. will be because you don't know what's coming. And if they get the picks right, they get the voting right, they get the fans doing what they need to do, now you're a winner. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Podcast. We love you. We enjoy it every day. All things are possible to those who believe. We want to get better and better so you can go higher and higher. We're going to keep doing what we're doing, and you keep doing what you're doing. We'll see you soon.